Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, hello.
What the fuck just happened? Excuse my français, but what? Huh? How? Who, what, when, where, and why? This right here, y'all. How y'all doing? This is about to be probably a therapy session. We are going to talk about two things today. The first, we have to talk about the titan, the musical titan that is Quincy Jones. But after that, I need to find some tissue because, I feel like tears may be coming or something. Because we are going to just talk about the results of this election. Let's start with the giant of American music. This is according to the New York Times. Quincy Jones passed away on Sunday night at his home in Bel Air at 91 years old. Ashley, looking him up has been a joy. I've already talked to you about his documentary on Netflix.
Yep, I watched it too.
It is literally it's probably number one. I forget what my number two is, but it's battling for number one of my favorite documentary because it's so rich in freaking history. You find out that he started off as a jazz trumpeter. He was playing for big bands for Court Betsy. He was making arrangements for freaking Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland. On top of that, a lot of people from the 80s know him for his work on, I don't know, this little album called Thriller. He was the primary producer for that. Ashley, this man is a musical genius. He wrote scores. We're not talking about, yes, we know him for We Are the World and Beat It, but this man was just truly, truly talented. It's awe-inspiring. He has honorary doctorates from literally everywhere. Berkeley School of Music, Howard University, and then what was another one? Juilliard. He's won 28 Grammys, only second behind Beyonce, who has 32, being the most person to win Grammys individually. His resume is CVS receipt long.
He's
can
what
talk
you
about
call
him.
Legendary.
Ashley, what were your thoughts when you heard about his passing, and what's memorable for you?
Well, I think you covered the bases for sure in terms of a lot of his cultural and musical impact, right? Little known fact, his middle name is Delight, which is dope.
Yes. And he has a son that is a junior, or the third.
The third.
He's the third. When I I watched 60 Minutes posted an old interview from 1986. Shout out to that year. Him talking about being recently getting his doctorate from Howard University. And they were like, Quincy, Delight, Jones. And I was like, that
Like
tickled
your
me.
mama knew something. Your mama knew something.
Yes.
I think that's fitting, obviously, given everything that he was able to accomplish. But I mean, he was a legend, for us, even as kids. I mean, Quincy
Yes.
Jones was synonymous with, musical excellence, and his relationship with Michael Jackson solidified Michael's, legend over the
Correct.
years as well. And outside of, some of the things that kind of came out as he was getting older and he kind of just let it fly, let it rip. I think his legacy is pretty untarnished, and even still, to your point with his impact on music, I mean, he's larger than life, right? He's going to live on forever through everything that he created. And when I saw the news, it was like one of those, not to say I had been anticipating it, but I had kind of been anticipating it because I knew he was getting older.
He
Um,
also spoke about his health challenges during the documentary, which only came out probably like what, 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, very long life, 91 years old. That's
Yes.
amazing. But I immediately thought of the kids. I thought of Rashida,
Yeah.
thought of
He has
Kadada.
seven
Um,
children.
yeah, I mean, the ones I know, all the
Yes.
children for sure, but the ones that I know are the ones that immediately came to my mind. And I'm sure they'll do a beautiful tribute and honor to him, his children, as well as uh, in entertainment. But yeah, I mean, it's a giant, a heavyweight, a presence that will be very missed moving forward. Like there's nobody
Absolutely.
I can think of who replaces Quincy Jones. Nobody.
No one. And, besides him being legendary musician, artist, composer, he was a producer, like film producer. He produced The Color Purple, both the movie from the 80s and the more recent musical. He also was behind The Wiz. He
Yeah.
brought The Wiz to
Yeah.
screen,
Fresh Prince.
and
He handpicked Will
Fresh
Smith.
Prince of Bel Air. I always love hearing Will Smith's like anecdotes with Quincy Jones because Quincy isn't one to mince words. And speaking of that, he was messy. And what I love here, I'm looking at people.com. They have a whole entire article dedicated to Quincy Jones's quote, most shocking revelations about other celebrities. From Marlon Brando's sex life to the Beatles' lack of talent. Uh, the first one, though, had me cracking up. I guess he met the Pope John Paul, and I guess you have to kiss the hand when he meets the Pope. And he said that he recalled he told GQ this in 2018. He looked down, kissed the hand, and before he left, he just spurted out, "Oh, my man's got some pimp shoes on." uh he apparently refused to work with Elvis because he said that he was, quote, a racist mother effer.
Okay.
He also highlighted that Michael Jackson was greedy. So he said that Michael stole a lot of stuff. This is from the Vulture. This is from the infamous Vulture interview
Mm-hmm.
from 2018. We got so caught up on the Marlon Brando situation. He also said that Michael Jackson was greedy and that he would steal stuff. And then, like, when it came time to give people 10%, he was like, no, he wouldn't do it. I
I
was
don't
like,
think that's
dang.
that's hard. I think the reason why we stuck more to Marlon Brando is because the Michael Jackson thing was an easier, understandable pill to swallow based off of even his history with his own family, right? Because I just was like yesterday years old when I heard Jermaine's little diss track to Michael back in the day, and I was like, oh damn,
No, I
I didn't know there
didn't know
was real,
that.
real beat. Oh, Google it.
Okay. I
Jermaine
mean,
dropped a whole little diss track to Michael back in the day.
Wow.
It was beef.
And the reason why everyone walked away from that uh, Marlon Brando tidbit is because he said, quote, he effed anything, anything. He effed a mailbox, James Baldwin, Richard Pryor, Marvin Gaye. I just let that breathe for a moment.
I'm still waiting on
Um,
a Marvin Gaye biopic, by the way.
yes.
It's going to be
Right?
messy. In case y'all don't know, it's going to be messy. But yes.
Yeah. And apparently he also knows who killed JFK. So this is
I mean,
he's
that's, he might.
he was talking about essentially it's mobster situation. He said the connection between Sinatra and the mafia and Kennedy. And I'm not going to read all of this, but he essentially said, we shouldn't talk about this publicly. So, he was a character, and I know he will be missed by his family, his friends, his fans. And to your point, Ashley, I don't know anyone who could fill his shoes. I think the closest person I can think of is in terms of talent level anyway, is Jean Baptiste, maybe. But unless there's somebody behind the scenes that we just don't know, by name. But
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously plenty of people who have their eras of these
yes,
pieces that they are very
yeah,
talented at, but the multifaceted,
yeah,
he was a once in a lifetime talent.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's get into the main topic of discussion. Today is actually Wednesday. So when this comes out on Thursday, we would have had one day of processing the news. I'm referring to the 2024 US presidential election. And the final results are released. That's what I'm looking at right now is Donald Trump wins with 295 electoral votes. Kamala Harris with 226. I think the most illuminating cover that I've seen so far in light of the news came from Vanity Fair, their digital cover. And it breaks our projected president. It breaks down his attributes as the following: 34 felony counts, 1 conviction, 2 pending cases, 2 impeachments, 6 bankruptcies, 4 more years, the 47th American president. Ashley, where were you during, the counting of the results on election day? When did you know the final results? And I just love to know your general sentiment.
Yeah. So this is one of those topics and days that it is difficult for me to be a podcaster because I have to be honest with y'all, if it was not for this podcast, I would not be having this conversation today. You are only the third person I've talked to about this, and those conversations were brief because I am giving myself some time to process through how I actually feel. I think I've been fairly numb about it so far today in terms of my feelings.
Well, I've been numb leading up to election day. And election day, I was like, let's get this over with.
Yeah, and see, I wasn't that because I was already worried that this was going to be the outcome. Like I already had always felt that this was an uphill battle in terms of the Democratic ticket. You know, we had so much that happened in a very short period of time with Biden needing to step away, with Kamala taking over and trying to actually have some form of a campaign leading up to this election. And so I already was feeling anxiety about it. And I knew that if this didn't go the way we wanted it to go, that was going to be at an all time high. And we were going to have to go back to the way we felt back in 2016 and deal with even more concern because we've already had the opportunity to see how fucked up things can get. So today I've been fairly numb, but let me go back to election night. So I had already decided in advance that I was not going to watch any coverage, and I did not. I went to bed early. I turned off all the notifications on my phone. And I said, I'm going to get hopefully one last good night's rest in case this does not go well.
You sound like
And
my mother. My mother was like, I'm sick to my stomach. I'm going to bed.
yeah, unfortunately, I had already had a text from one of my friends at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up at some point, basically saying, oh, it looks like, Trump's going to be the next president. So I woke up, was like, okay, let me continue to try to sleep a little bit longer. I still woke up and was like, I still don't want to look at anything. I didn't go online. I didn't go on social media. I would listen to an audiobook and I was like, all right, let me get ready for work. Finally, when I got on my computer, I went to CNN.com, pulled it up, saw not only Trump, but the House and the Senate seats. And I said, well, okay, this is literally worst case scenario. Exited out of it, went on about my fucking day. I said, there's literally no emotion right now that's going to help this situation. So let me just focus on what is directly in front of me, which is to get through this workday. Now, in the course of this workday, I had a coworker who decided to troll us during a team meeting by popping on Zoom with a Make America Great Again hat on.
Are
And
you serious?
yes, and this coworker, I already know that he has this type of sense of humor, but it felt insensitive, obviously, because he just didn't
Girl,
know how anybody was going to react or feel. And one of my coworkers literally hopped on, saw his hat, hopped back off. And she sent a message saying, I'm not attending the meeting.
I love that energy.
So he had to, have some talks. I was one of the talks he had, to try to, smooth things over. But, it for me was one of those things of, let's just push through. Again, I've talked to a couple of people, my mom, one of my friends, and I the gauge for me is just kind of are you okay mentally? Are you okay emotionally? Are you okay? Those are my questions. And then, we just kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen. And that's where I'm at with it right now, Delora.
So, yesterday, we went over to my friend Jazz's house to watch the results. We couldn't stay like late, but we got like the first wave, right? And the term red barrage came up like, hey, it may seem like he's winning, but a lot of um, the blue states are frankly in a different time zone, so it'll come in later. So there is a bit of hope, but it wasn't looking too good. We went to bed because one, my daughter had to go to bed to go to school. I was smart, and I'm saying this because of how I felt, and I'll get there. I took today off. I took it off. I put it in far enough in advance. So I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm unavailable that day. To frankly avoid what you experienced, Ashley. I didn't have time for gloating because I didn't know what was gonna happen. I took the day off whether if she had won or not. And I was tired, so I went to sleep. And I got up in the middle of the night. And I was like, should I check my phone? Should I check my phone? And I was like, well, let me check my phone. 4:30 in the morning. No one texted me. And I was like, this is a sign. This is a sign. I open up the apps and it's just looking real dry. Like the people I typically look to for, political commentary, nothing. And I was like, oh, I think you won. And when I tell you, the first thing that came to mind was, I remember the exhale that I had when Joe Biden won in
Yep.
2020.
Yep.
It was like a relief, a reprieve, that to know that he won took the breath out of me, to the point where I was like, I hope I'm not about to have a panic attack, because it felt suffocating, because I just could not believe people willingly voted for him after experiencing his presidency for 4 years.
Yep. It's
What,
like
eight
people
years ago?
suddenly had short-term memory loss in terms of what that experience was like. People were so adamant in that 2020 election. Do you remember? People were so adamant.
Ashley,
No way
be,
could he be back president again. It seemed like people just somehow had fucking amnesia.
because he wasn't great. Between his administration being a literal revolving door, the fact that he insisted that American governors kiss the ring for pandemic relief and supplies, him lying about hurricanes, writing, writing on real pictures, claiming that they're going to put a bomb in a hurricane. And then let's not talk about his political rallies, because I'm like, what was he selling people? He was talking about Hannibal Lecter. And for people, and yes, people are allowed to have different opinions, people are allowed to have different political opinions, but people who claim to understand and follow him because of their faith, I was like, he paid off a porn star with campaign funds. I don't, morality.
Yeah.
um, and so when I got up, I think I would describe how I felt. I was stunned, speechless. I had no words. I couldn't even reach out to a lot of my family and friends because I didn't know what to say.
There is nothing to say.
I
Plus,
didn't know what to say.
I think a lot of people need to, again, have time to process it and figure out what this looks like and what this means. Like, I think some people see it as like, oh, it's just politics. Now, some people, this was a life and death election and decision that was made today. So some people just gonna need some space and time.
You know, I'm so glad that you say that, because I don't want a pep talk right now. Like, and I say this to say, I'm reforming myself in terms of, like, I have been known to, all right, let's dust ourselves off and try again and keep moving. And what I was actually doing was suppressing real emotions, right? And that's not healthy either. So for me, where I am right now is, this is where I am right now. I am stunned, speechless. It is a level of numbness because, like I said, what, huh? And he won it handedly. So to me, I'm like, well, people be lying to these polls. I'm not saying I believe polls. I have actually gotten, I sound like Whoopi. I don't believe in polls. I've never been polled, and I know I'm a
Yeah. Well, it's not even
engaged
just that.
citizen of this country.
Higher learning had on a guy who supposedly is a election predictor, and he
Yes. And
talked
he had
about
all
the
the keys.
methodology. Yeah.
Yep.
And he still said it was going to be Kamala, right? He said, I was one of the few who predicted Trump back in 2016. So, even him, when he said that, I was like, oh, well, maybe you have some gauge that, again, I was always nervous. I was always anxious. There was a lot too much, in my opinion, that happened that put the Democrats at a disadvantage in terms of actually pulling this out this year. And that always terrified me. But I still tried to hold on to some semblance of hope that miraculously America was not quite as sexist and racist as I knew it to be. And y'all devastated me in the worst way that only y'all can do.
In the worst way. This young lady on Instagram had a post. One of my friends posted it, and I thought it was well said. I don't know how to say this lady's name. It's Malyndahale. So I want to say her name is Melinda Hale. I don't know who she is, so I don't know where the space is supposed to go. So forgive me, but this is what she said. I cannot believe how hard we have to work to convince people that a qualified woman of color who has dedicated her life to public service and operates with grace, dignity, and empathy is a better candidate to lead this country than a man who was a reality television star, is a sexual predator, has been convicted of 34 felonies, filed for bankruptcy at least 6 times, talked about grabbing women by the pussy, and is endorsed by white supremacists. I feel like I'm going crazy.
Yeah, it's sad. Like I said, I never even really felt like I got a chance to celebrate the achievement of Kamala getting to the top of the ticket, and the way that I was able to when Barack Obama was at the top of the ticket, and just those feelings politically, I have not been able to have for a long time because of the way that everything has devolved since, Trump's runs and presidencies and stuff. And I just don't know what to say, guys. Like, I'm sure we're all in the same space and place right now, but I'm just terrified of what is to come. And I don't want that terror to paralyze me on like a daily basis. I don't want to lose
Right.
joy or um, not live the best life possible. But I am
Fully.
extremely concerned about what is about to happen. So much so that last night I was like, do I need to start seriously considering making plans for leaving like the United States? And what would that look like for
You
me?
are not alone. I have had friends who've had very active conversations and plans on doing just that. I mean, actually, I also didn't mention like the vibe was so off the day of the election that like even at work, we got police now. They brought in a uniformed police officer to have presence in the building. And I'm like, what do y'all think is about to pop off?
Wow.
I, I'm going to ask you this question, then I'll go into the next thing that I wanted to highlight in this conversation. Do you feel like some people were scared of what would have happened if he didn't win, and so they voted for him?
That's a good question. I don't know if that fear pushed people to vote for him that would not have otherwise wanted to vote for him, but I do think there was a lot of fear about what his supporters would do if he did not win. I hope that it wasn't to the level of intimidation that anybody would cast a vote for him for that reason. I would really, really hope not. But there was a fear. I think there was a fear that things were going to be crazy either way. And obviously, at this point, we haven't seen that, but I think especially based off of what happened on January 6th, based off of the intimidation and tactics that were going on at the polls, I think even that
Yeah.
movie Civil War, that Kirsten Dunst and her husband were in, I couldn't watch that movie because I was like, this feels like something that could really happen with this next election. So I do think that there was that anxiety and fear about, you know, the level of chaos because people did not think he was going to go away quietly. People thought he was already setting up for all these scenarios of the
Yes.
election was stolen again. It was
Yeah.
rigged.
Yeah.
I really won. Da 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 da. But what are y'all going to do now if y'all put him back in office and then he tries to create a system in which will not have to run again because he's going to be
He
president
told us
for
that
in
you don't have to vote
perpetuity?
ever again.
Yeah. So again, I try like I'm already an anxious person. That's why Inside Out 2 and anxiety really is a trigger because
Did you finally watch it?
I rewatched it. I did rewatch it because I went ahead and had to do my Disney Plus to watch Agatha All Along, which by the way, Agatha All Along is one of the best shows of the year.
So
One of the
good.
best shows of the year.
So good.
Even
And
though
can we
I
not, can we talk
unfortunately,
about the banger that is the road? Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, unfortunately, I caught one spoiler right as I was about to be wrapping up the series, and it was a big one. And I was so pissed because I had managed to avoid all the spoilers. And I said, you
Was it the
motherfuckers.
last one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
you motherfuckers.
People are awful. I'm like, can we give me a week or something?
Give
Like,
me some time, bro. Like, I literally just got my Disney Plus when the series wrapped. I should not have had a spoiler that significant.
soon. Yep,
Anyway, that was a great show. But
it was.
the point is that I don't want, and I'm sure nobody wants the results of this to completely devastate and impact their lives. I'm just glad I don't work in politics because I really don't know what I would do like with the native land pod people being at Kamala's headquarters. I mean, Angela's
Ed
still
Howard,
recovering from Hillary.
listen,
So I don't know where
listen.
Angela's at today because I'd be
And they
below,
were
I'd be at the bottom of a
optimistic.
batoYeah, I'd be at the
They
bottom of a
were
bottle today.
everyone on that panel too, Tiffany and Andrew,
Andrew and
they were
Angela.
very optimistic. Um, so I want to just take time to say thank you, Vice President Kamala Harris. What she did in 100 days was unprecedented. And her campaign was, it was a well-oiled machine. That woman, I want to know what vitamins she takes because she was going state to state. She was on foot in heels, looking good in a suit too. I'm like, not a not a pressed hair out of place. Like she did the thing. And she was one of the most qualified people to ever run for the office, having had experience in all three branches of government, from Attorney General of California to U.S. Senator of California to Vice President of the United States. And the fact that she lost to a felon is just mind boggling. But thank you, because what she did was inspiring and it will not be forgotten. And Pinky, who's the owner of Slutty Vegan, she said something that really touched me. I saw it on the Shade Room, but she pretty much said, when God gives us assignments, he it doesn't always mean that we'll win, but he wants. She just pretty much said that he expects you to do your assignment well, regardless if it's the outcome that you were looking for or not. And that is so true, because what she did, even what Hillary did, those are stepping stones for the first woman president of the United States. Now, when will that happen? I don't know, because the likelihood of the Democrats putting a woman on the ticket again, I don't know. I don't know. We could just say F it too, right? But the Americans have spoken. Because again, this win is both popular electoral. Um, her concession speech. Did you see it?
No.
I didn't want to see it. So when they said she was going to speak at 4, I was like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But because I knew it was going to be a topic for today's podcast, I watched it. I watched it for y'all. Okay. Um, what I appreciate about it is that she approached it with the same level of joy and enthusiasm and with heart. There were a couple of key things that stuck out to me um, in her speech. And like I said before, the way she walked out, she was like peak, don't let them see you sweat. You know what I mean? She said that the light of America's promise will always shine bright if we can, continue to carry on. I'm like, I hear you, sis, but my light has dimmed. Okay. And I am, there's a lot of conversation of Black people who are like, do not group us in with people of color. We are Black and there's everybody else because everybody else still does whatever they want. You know what I mean? She spoke to young people by saying, you have the power and don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do anything because it's never been done before. And I think the most inspiring part, and she said it was a proverb, but I didn't catch where she got it from, but it says, only when it's dark enough, you can see the stars. So shout out to Black women. I feel like we have always been the canary in the coal mine, especially for this country. But we deserve rest.
I mean, we came out and did what we needed to do as usual.
We
Other
did what needed to
demographics
be done.
that continue to fail us. So,
Wow. That's all I have, Ashley. Any final thoughts?
nope, that's it for me. Like I said, this was tough to even have to get on here and talk about. I'm not gonna lie to y'all today. I'm not in the mood. I'm, I'm not in the
It's
mood.
the hottest topic.
I
Um,
understand. I'm not
the
saying that we wouldn't talk about it. It's just hard for me to have to sit here and talk about. And that's just me being honest.
Absolutely. Two more questions. So the first one, do you have any ways that you have currently coped or ways that you're looking forward to cope?
No, I'm just taking it one moment at a time with whatever it is that I have to do. That's the way I'm currently coping.
I have been coping, one, obviously having the day off. Two, I washed my hair, got my curls popping. Shout out to self-care. Uh, retail therapy. I got a haul from Sephora. Granted, the stuff I already needed, but I just went ahead and purchased. And I also purchased 3 credits on Audible because I'm like, you know what? Let's see what books what books I can get into. Because this is crazy. My final question is, do you feel like celebrity endorsements help or hinder the candidates?
Neither. I don't think they really have any impact on anybody at the end of the day.
Um, do you think celebrities should speak up?
I mean, I think fans of people want to hear that celebrity endorse the candidate that they feel that they should endorse. Like, I think people enjoyed Beyonce coming out for Kamala. I think people enjoyed, Meg and Glorilla and some other folks who came out and showed their support. Because if you like that celebrity, you want them to be on what you consider to be the right side, right? So I'm sure as a fan, it endears you to them as far as your fandom. But I don't think you would be a Beyonce fan who wasn't going to vote for Kamala and suddenly be like, oh, okay, well, Beyonce says I should. I don't think there's that level of influence.
Mm-hmm. All right. And what do I feel? I feel like people vote based off how they vote, whether they're one issue voter, whether they're concerned about, um, you know, their current economic status, or whether they care about the country's moral standing for the world. I think that's the biggest part that hurts right now. Um, like I said, in 2016, it was a why not vote. In 2024, it's like we know what 4 years look like, so why? But the bigger conversation is looking at the young folks, and we're pretty much saying you can do whatever you want, young men. If you got enough power, enough, I don't know, there won't be any consequences to your actions. And that's both financial, that's with how you interact with people, women. Like, I think that's crazy.
Yep. What an example.
All right, Ashley, what are we recapping for next week?
We are recapping the Netflix series that is still currently in Netflix's top 10 for TV shows in the US. Dropped back in September, was a hidden gem. Nobody Wants This, starring Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. I feel like, these are dark days, so let's lighten it up with some rom-coms and some love set in one of Hollywood's favorite cities to romanticize, LA. So we're going to have a special guest who we've had on the podcast before join us for this conversation. And it should be a good one.
It shall be. I love you, Ashley.
Love you too. We'll hang in there. You guys hang in there. We appreciate it.
Y'all.
We know it's a tough time for all of us, so we'll move through. But guys, thank you so much as always for listening to this episode. We appreciate it. Please stick with us and come back for that recap that we talked about. But in the meantime, as always, be blessed.
Bye.